immediate family, I wouldn't say that my immediate family is connected other than the fact that we're Jewish and obviously have felt the impact of it a million different ways. But my husband, his grandfather actually fought in World War II in the Battle of the Bulge. And so we were directly connected because he was injured. He was actually shot in the chest and he received a Purple Heart. And yeah, I mean, he fought in the war and was immediately impacted because of that. He was actually a gunner. They didn't know this until until like many years later. He did not like talking about it. I think probably because it was pretty traumatic for him. So he didn't like talking about it, but there's an organization now that's called the Freedom Flight, I think is what it's called. And they bring veterans to Washington, D.C. and they honor them. And so that was actually the first time, he was in his late 80s, that they even heard that he was a gunner. So I'll just share a few things. She said he didn't talk about it very much. When he did, he talked about it very matter-of-factly. He was a machine gunner on a tank, and he was drafted. He was going to school in Marquette, at Marquette in Milwaukee, and he got drafted and went to Kansas. It immediately impacted his family, actually, because he had a brother who was younger, who was afraid of being drafted. His mother, this is a crazy connection to this time in history, but his mother was a really petite, like very thin woman, and she was so nervous about her son going off to war that she started eating a lot at night, and she gained a lot of weight, and she went to the doctor to ask for advice, and the doctor's advice was to start smoking because it would keep her hands busy so she wouldn't eat. So it's just like a sign of the times of how little we knew also about our health. He said one time that they were playing like around in a field, they were practicing firing stuff, and all of a sudden shots were being shot at them. So he had to book it out of there and head back to the tank. So when he was shot, he was actually airlifted to England, and after he recovered, he was able to recover, and then he traveled around England and France, and then he came back. Something interesting that she shared with me today was that at the time that he was in Europe and he was Jewish, he didn't actually even really know about the concentration camps. He wasn't part of the liberation. So when he came back, that was like alarming and frightening to him. I do want to share, I know that I shared with you guys that when he was fighting, that he collected Nazi pins. And so I think there's two perspectives, and I think it's important to share both of them. One, I think the reason that he collected them was because he felt like he was a Jewish man, and the Nazis were very vocal, obviously, and were taking action to try to kill all of the Jews, right? And so I think for him, it felt like, I'm saving myself, I'm saving my family, I'm saving my community. And so I think that is why he felt, it was appropriate to take the pins of fallen Nazis. On the flip side, I do think this is important to say. I think some people might view that as not okay, right? Like, he wasn't trying to take the pins as a trophy of like, look, I killed this person and I have proof of it, because that seems almost inhumane, right? But it was more of like wanting to fight the idealism of Nazis. They were taken from human bodies, I think. I don't know the full story. And that does feel kind of icky for a variety of reasons, right? But like I said, I think that he did that because he was trying to support Judaism and support a lot of innocent lives that were being taken. So he actually fought, I just found this out today, that he fought in the Battle of the Bulge. story's crazy. So he fought in World War II. He was shot in the chest, miraculously survived. That's why he got the Purple Heart. And then he later in life was told, like, you're going to have a heart attack and die because of your health, basically. And he lived till he was 92. He never had any of those heart complications. But at the end of his life, they were actually able to connect the heart failure that he was having to World War II. Because he was in the trenches, he got something called trench foot. And basically because he was standing in those trenches, mud and water would fill up the bottom of the trench, and then because they were standing in that water and mud for so long, it would fill their boots and it would lead to infection. And somehow when he was 92 years old, they were able to connect that as one of the underlying causes of the heart disease that he had later in life, which is insane. He passed away when I was pregnant with my son Drew, so about 5 years ago. He grew up in Milwaukee, and his family had a candy store, which is really funny because, like I said, legacy. His family had a candy store. He loved sweets. He was known in his old age to eat a cookie in one bite. And then Drew, who never met him, also does the same thing. And so we always say, like, there's those connections. I think it affects my life and my family's life because he didn't choose to be in the war, right? He was enlisted. But once he was enlisted, he went and he gave it his all because Judaism was incredibly important to him. It was incredibly important to him that he was able to continue those traditions and that his family could continue those traditions. And so I think that lives on with my family and me now because the level of importance and connection to Judaism has carried through his family, and that's part of our family story and our legacy. And so we constantly talk about, his name was Mort. We constantly talk about Papa Mort, and my son never got to meet him, but we always say, like, Drew, you're just like Papa Mort. And we want him to be like him. We want him to be proud of his Judaism and not afraid to fight and stand up to people who don't like us for the simple fact that we're Jewish.